It's my honor to introduce our next keynote speaker. Kevin De León serves as President Pro Tem of the California State Senate and is the first Latino elected to that position in over 130 years. He's focused on a sustainable economy for California, and one of his top priorities is working to combat climate change while building the clean energy economy. His legislation has created the most ambitious renewable energy goals in the nation, the first of its kind retirement savings program for low-income workers, and has required a quarter of all cap-and-trade revenue be spent in disadvantaged communities. His accomplishments are numerous. Senator De León co-chaired Proposition 39, the California Clean Energy Jobs Act, which funded more than 40,000 clean energy generation projects in schools. His SB 350 last year strengthened California's climate leadership by enacting standards to reduce petroleum use by 50%, set a 50% renewable energy goal for the state's utilities, and increase building efficiency by 50%, all by 2030. He also passed a bill to require the state's public employee pension funds to divest from coal. Before being elected to the Senate, he served 4 years in the Assembly, and before the legislature, he taught citizenship courses to immigrants and led opposition to 1994's anti-immigration Proposition 187. Kevin's a great friend, and I worked with him when I was with Governor Schwarzenegger on many of this legislation, and we're just thrilled to have him here. Kevin.
Thank you so very much, Linda. Thank you so very much for the very kind, very warm, very generous introduction of my person. It is indeed an honor and a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you, and I want to thank you for the awesome privilege of having an opportunity to address you on issues that are very near and dear to our heart, and the potential market opportunities that exist because of policies that are being moved forward with a sense of intentionality as well as purpose. Today is the 6th of May. Yesterday was el 5 de Mayo, la Batalla de Puebla. I know we have our Subsecretary Severnan Rodolfo Lacey here, but I was actually supposed to be in Melbourne, Australia, today giving a speech on this very same issue. But I decided to come to my home base, my hometown, the city of San Diego. Plus, Melbourne in Australia is very beautiful, but it's really, really, really far, you know. I think it's 17 hours last time I went there, and then you're discombobulated completely. You don't know which day is which, you know, and I'm not quite sure if I would have made it through my speech and got on a plane and returned back to California very quickly. But it really is an awesome privilege to have a moment to share with each and every one of you. As Linda just mentioned a few moments ago, with policies like Senate Bill 350, California has redefined the modern environmental movement as we know it today. Now, I think I can say with great authority that Senate Bill 350 is perhaps the most far-reaching climate change policy in the history of the United States of America, bar none. What we're doing with Senate Bill 350 is that we are democratizing the benefits of clean energy and making it work to make sure that clean air is a universal right for all individuals, irrespective of who they are, where they come from, the hue of their skin, the language that they speak, or their legal status. We create policies that give voice to the voiceless. We address climate change while respecting the needs and the rights of our most vulnerable communities in the great state of California. And soon, our communities living in the shadows of smokestacks and freeway overpasses will breathe a little easier. Senate Bill 350 puts us on track to generate half of our electricity from renewable sources, especially channeling the power of the wind as well as sun. And that means every investor-owned utility, whether it's Tempore Energy here in San Diego, California, whether it is Edison International in Los Angeles, or Pacific Gas and Electric, or our large municipally owned utilities, such as the largest one in the nation, LADWP. Everyone will have to comply by law by the year 2030. Half of their RPS portfolio will have to be from renewable sources. We make it very clear. We also double down on our energy efficiency by the year 2030. Every single building, whether it's private or public, in the great state of California. And one of the least known provisions in this measure, because the vast focus, the controversial aspect of Senate Bill 350, obviously, as Linda had just mentioned, was the 50% reduction in petroleum use by the year 2030. But one of the very least known provisions of Senate Bill 350 was our transportation electrification. And it will speed our transition to a clean transportation future. This law will dramatically expand electric vehicle charging stations. And driving an electric vehicle will be more accessible for Californians at every income level and every corner of our state. And it will, for the very first time in the history of this state and this nation, actually create some real competition with the fossil fuel industry for a change. Because the vast majority of Californians, as well as Americans, the vast majority of our world's citizens drive internal combustion cars. And the reason why is because we have a monopoly on an exclusive transportation fuel supply. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? For those who have the financial wherewithal to have access to the latest and cleanest technology, of course, you have the ability to drive a Tesla and have a charging station at your place of residence. So, what can we do to provide accessibility to the best technology out there with a price point that's economical and within reach, and have a transportation electrification built out throughout the state of California? That is what we're doing today. Southern California Edison, the investor-owned utility, is already moving forward with a pilot program due to SB 350 to build 1,500 brand new charging stations throughout the city of Los Angeles. And once that project is completed, Southern California Edison will seek authority to install 30,000 such charging stations throughout the region. Once we have transportation electrification, one of the anxieties we won't have to be concerned about is range anxiety. If you're actually going to make it to point A, or actually make it back to point B, or make it to point B and make it back to point A, that will be a thing of the past soon. SB 350 will accelerate this process throughout the great state of California. And soon, EV charging outlets will be as common, ubiquitous as gas pumps, and again, range anxiety will be a thing of the past. This is, in fact, a quiet revolution for consumers, public health, and our economy. Now, I want to share a story last year. Last year, we had a family from the Central Valley, Stockton to be specific, a family member who actually is a migrant worker. He's from Nuevo León, Mexico, which is in the border, that borders with the state of Texas, but he lives in California now. 4 daughters, Mr. Mendoza. Mr. Mendoza had a Ford pickup truck, 1994 pickup truck, and took it to get smogged. Didn't pass the smog check. So he told his daughter what was happening, and his daughter says, there's this program that California just passed, just recently, and it's Charge Ahead. He says, Dad, I think you can get into an electric vehicle. He said, what is that? And he says, well, you know, it doesn't run on fossil fuels. It's not an internal combustion car. It's not a gas-powered car. He said, okay, mija, you know, in Spanish, do what you need to do, and you figure it out. So the daughter did all the research. She went online, and she found out through Senate Bill 1275 that she can actually put together all the rebates, and at the end of the day, the cost for the car minus gas costs was about $125 monthly. And it was because of the rebates that we compiled together, the California State Senate, working closely with Governor Jerry Brown, as well as our good friend Mary Nichols over at CARB. And because his car didn't pass the smog, he didn't want to invest in the repairs necessary to bring it up to speed or to code. So at the end of the day, we arranged an opportunity where he would bring his truck to the state capitol. And we had, and I don't know what they're called, those big crushers. And we actually put, in front of all the media, we put his truck in between that crusher, and we did a countdown, and that crusher slowly came down and completely demolished into a pancake his beloved Ford pickup truck, which was obviously a big burner of carbon fossil fuels into our atmosphere. But in return, what he also got was, I gave him the keys in front of everybody to a Prius electrical plug-in car. And he didn't drive off with his daughters listening to National Public Radio, Wait, Don't Talk, but rather Los Tigres del Norte, which is Mexican regional country music. But that is a behavior modification and a tipping point. When you move policies with intentionality in the sense of purpose, with expected outcomes that you would like to see manifest themselves, because the marketplace unto itself will not correct the inequities that currently exist today when it comes to the issue of carbon. Those individuals who are will be disproportionately impacted by carbon and other co-pollutants, as well as having access to capital so they can also have access to the cleanest and best technology. Again, this is a quiet revolution for consumers, our public health, as well as our economy. As many of you know, I was part of a state delegation with Governor Jerry Brown at the Conference of Parties 21 in December. I know there's a lot of folks in today's audience that was in Paris just sometime last year. And I can tell you now, more than ever, that the world is watching the great state of California. World economies have agreed to dramatically reduce greenhouse gas emissions over the coming years. And in fact, as we all know, the leaders of over 175 nations came together just last month in New York to actually sign the Paris Agreement. But now, the real work begins. And as international leaders look for ways to meet their commitments, many will be looking closely at California's model. That's because we have shown that one of the great economies of the world, the 7th largest GDP on planet Earth, can in fact reduce air pollution without losing a step in the global economic race. What we have done with intentionality and purpose is that we have delinked and decoupled carbon from GDP. And we have broken the myth and the stereotype and the narrative that has been funded, that if you want to grow the economy, if you want to put people to work, if you want to give working class families an opportunity to succeed and send their child off to college, pay for their rent, food on the table, clothes on their children's back, then you have to burn fossil fuels. There is no other option, because this is what we know. But we have broken that stereotype and that myth with empirical evidence and data, that in fact you can delink and decouple carbon from GDP, that in fact a strong economy, a growing economy, is actually compatible and inclusive with a clean environment, so our children can breathe clean air into their lungs and drink clean water. This is among our most important achievements in climate policy. And again, for far too long, we have assumed that air pollution and other environmental harms were the inevitable costs of doing business. We believe that environmental health and economic growth were, in fact, mutually exclusive of each other. But in fact, we have proven they are, in fact, inclusive of each other. Today, California is proving otherwise. Now, climate action has made our economy more resilient, more innovative, and more competitive. And in fact, California's policies and our renewable energy innovators, many who are in this audience today, have helped to create a new global clean tech industry. Now, in California, we have over 500,000 jobs in energy efficiency and renewable energy. That's more than all the investor-owned utilities in California combined. That is more than agriculture, fishing, as well as forestry combined. That is more than Hollywood and film and TV combined in the state of California. And I would know because I was the main chief negotiator on the Hollywood film and TV tax credit of $1.5 billion. There are more jobs in the energy efficiency and renewable space in California than the Hollywood film and TV industry. And yes, there are more jobs than the entire oil and gas industry in the great state of California. Clean energy is officially a pillar of our economy, and it's here to stay. The industry is growing and adding jobs 6 times faster than our economy as a whole. And now we have the added benefit of the Paris Agreement. This will send a very clear signal to the market and to all businesses across the globe. I had an opportunity to give an address in the House of Parliament sometime in November. I know, and I forget his name, the Chancellor of the Exchequer of the UK, individual who has his eyes on becoming the next PM of the UK. He made a comment that he doesn't want the UK to lead on the issue of climate change in the European Union, irrespective of the internal dynamics right now in the UK vis-a-vis the rest of the European Union. And I said, well, that's okay, because if you don't want to lead, then we will remain the global leaders, and we'll invite the market capital to the great state of California, because that's what's at stake. You don't necessarily have to be number one. I understand that. But the risk is falling behind in the global race for renewable energy and creating the new energy grids of tomorrow. How we power our businesses, how we power our houses, how we give life and move the economy. Now, as we all know, this will drive more investment and innovation in clean energy right here at home. This is an incredible moment in California, in the United States, in the world. And I know we have leaders from other parts of the world, from Canada as well as Mexico. And it's so exciting to partner up and collaborate with our Mexican friends to the south of us, our Canadian friends to the north of us, and having incredible leadership in the executive branch as we move these legislative proposals together. Assembly Bill 32, the Global Warming Solutions Act of 2006, surpassing the Kyoto protocols when there was a big sense of depression globally because no one was moving forward with a forceful intentionality on the Kyoto protocols. But California came forward again with AB 32 through the legislative branch. Again, 1275, providing accessibility to all electric vehicles, not just to those who have the financial wherewithal, but to those who are part of the median and working class families throughout the great state of California. Senate Bill 350, again, through the legislature. If you live in a red state, say Alabama, Georgia, or Louisiana, and if you buy a Ford F-150 pickup truck today, you get more or less about 28 mpg, 28 miles mpg. Whether you believe in climate change, whether it exists or it doesn't exist, you're driving a pickup truck that is giving you 28 mpg. 10 years ago, it got you 10 miles per gallon. Or I should say 18 miles again. I should say 18 miles mpg. That's because of the policies from California, which have now been nationalized by President Barack Obama in 2011. Better fuel efficiency from our cars. This is the power of what happens when you move policies with intentionality and a sense of purpose that sends very clear market signals and invites capital and allows innovators and those in the technology space to use your creativity, your ingenuity in these creations of these carbon markets as we move forward. We want a better society for all of our families. Now, if we don't do anything, or if we slow down, I actually believe that the Earth is going to be okay. Because the Earth has been okay for eons. It has changed and it has adapted very well. It is humanity and the ecosystem that we live in today that will not survive if we don't do everything within our power to make sure we curb harmful emissions into our atmosphere. It is said that California today is America tomorrow. And if that's the case, and I believe it is, it's critical that we get it right here. And together, I know we will. We're going to keep pressing forward, keep making history until every single Californian can breathe clean air, drink clean water, and power their homes, their businesses, or cars with clean energy. I want to thank each and every one of you for your incredible leadership as well as support, and I hope you have a wonderful conference and a wonderful weekend. With that, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.